Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, the show opens with our MC Taro Sakamoto, a highly respected hitman, seen coldly marching through enemy territory. Spotting several men firing at him, Sakamoto nonchalantly deflects the projectiles, dashing through the men only to dispatch them one by one. As Sakamoto heads deeper into enemy lines, he continues to brandish his skills, feared by every gangster, but also admired by every hitman. One day while shopping, Sakamoto ran into Aoi, the love of his life. Having fallen in love, Sakamoto quit his life as a hitman and got married to Aoi only to help give birth to Hana. Now living the life of a family man, we cut to the present where Sakamoto runs a convenience store, but outside a blonde kid states he's finally tracked down Sakamoto. Hard at work, Sakamoto watches as a kid draws a target on his store's sliding doors, asking for a free juice box if he hits a bullseye. With Aoi and Hana watching the boy miss, the boy asks for another go, accidentally spilling some of his calligraphy ink on a businessman that enters the store. Annoyed, the businessman prepares to punish the boy, but Sakamoto steps in, scaring the businessman with his sheer aura. Sakamoto had prepared to assassinate the businessman with a pen, but luckily no violence was needed. But everyone suddenly notices a blonde boy in his store. The boy compliments Sakamoto's readiness to assassinate the businessman, personally introducing himself as Shin the Psychic, but Sakamoto thinks of incapacitating Shin with a single blow to the head. Sensing his demise, Shin reassures Sakamoto that he's here to talk, sitting down only to confirm that Sakamoto had indeed given up on his hitman life. Seeing Sakamoto with a round body, Shin reminds Sakamoto he was once the legendary hitman, begging Sakamoto to return to his duties. As Sakamoto slurps up some instant noodles, Shin chooses to smoke to relieve some stress, but in an instant Sakamoto splits Shin's cigarette into two, reminding Shin they're in a no-smoking zone. Realizing that Sakamoto hasn't lost his touch since he's retired, Sakamoto is suddenly called by an older man for a favor, making Shin wonder if Sakamoto is only disguising as a civilian. Having reached the older man's backyard, Sakamoto instantly gets to work cutting down a tree. Next, Sakamoto is asked by a lady to help feed her picky daughter some vegetables, managing to use a silver spoon to feed her. Finally, Sakamoto sees two boys fighting over who gets to play with a ball, choosing to split the ball into two with his bare hands, solving the issue. As Sakamoto takes a break, Shin realizes Sakamoto is a handyman for the whole town, praising Sakamoto for concealing his identity so well, but Shin still thinks Sakamoto has fallen so far from his legendary status. Heading to his car, Shin notes how it's only been 5 years since he's seen Sakamoto, still admiring Sakamoto for being so awesome, wishing for the day Sakamoto returns. Suddenly receiving a call from his boss, Shin reports that he had failed to convince Sakamoto to return, but the boss asks if Shin had eliminated Sakamoto for betraying them. Shin tries to convince the boss to leave Sakamoto alone, but the boss reminds Shin he'll be eliminated and replaced if he fails. That night, Shin washes up, thinking back on his missions with Sakamoto, knowing he should be the one to put his old partner down. Heading back to the store the next day, Shin walks past Aoi, Hana, and the boy playing, apologizing in advance. Upon entering Sakamoto's store, Shin tells Sakamoto he'll be leaving town today, choosing to pull out his gun as he bids farewell to Sakamoto. Seeing Shin pull the trigger, Sakamoto chooses to spit his cough drop as Shin's bullet, deflecting it onto a bag of chips on the counter. Trying to reload, Shin is distracted by an ice cream flung at him, but suddenly realizes that Sakamoto has disappeared. Cautiously scanning the aisles, Sakamoto manages to distract Shin by making some noise in one of the aisles, only to make use of a rubber band and some cough drops to snipe Shin through the shelves. Rushing to evade Sakamoto's cough drops, Shin and Sakamoto catch a glance of each other at the end of the aisle, but Sakamoto tosses a cream puff at Shin, obstructing his vision. Having bought enough time, Sakamoto sneaks up from behind, winding up a torrential kick that sends Shin flying through several shelves, reminding Shin of when he used to train with Sakamoto. As Shin falls unconscious, he suddenly awakens a few hours later, spotting Hana and Aoi relieved to see him awake, learning he had been brought to the second floor of Sakamoto's store. Seeing Sakamoto's loving family, Shin gets weirded out, confused as to why they're serving him a lovely meal even after his assassination attempt. Believing the food to be poisoned, Shin chooses to face the challenge head-on, but instead begins breaking down, grateful to be served such a delicious and hearty meal. Finally understanding why Sakamoto retired, Shin and Sakamoto head outside, prompting Shin to graciously thank Sakamoto and his family for taking care of him. With Sakamoto asking Shin to come again soon, we cut to later that night, where Shin sits before his boss and his gang, begging his boss to let Sakamoto live. The boss and his henchmen scoff at such a pathetic request, reminding Shin that Sakamoto must be eliminated, having abandoned their organization. But Shin offers to give his life for Sakamoto. With the boss accepting Shin's offer, the boss secretly thinks about how gullible Shin is, but having already expected the boss to lie to him, Shin turns his gun on the boss. As Shin begins a shootout with his former organization, we cut to Sakamoto listening in on their conversation, choosing to transform his convenience store into an armory littered with deadly weapons. As Sakamoto opts for a stun gun, we cut back to Shin, who slowly begins dismantling the enemies, switching from his gun to martial arts to dispatch the men. Unfortunately, Shin is caught off guard, struck by a bazooka, but still manages to run for cover. With the men rallying together, the boss reminds everyone that Shin is a psychic, meaning he can read people's minds if they're close enough. Continuing his onslaught, Shin takes out a few more men, realizing he has a single magazine left, ultimately getting struck in the leg by a bullet. Falling onto his knees, Shin is surrounded, finally giving up. Luckily, Sakamoto appears, paralyzing the men surrounding Shin. As the boss orders his men to take out Sakamoto, Sakamoto nonchalantly opens a pair of chopsticks, increasing his speed to knock out the men, all whilst flexing he can catch the bullets with chopsticks. Spotting a man wielding a katana, Sakamoto easily evades, kicking the man aside only to block a spray of bullets with pins, slaying the gunman with said pins. Cleaning up the remaining gunmen, Sakamoto locks onto the boss and his remaining henchmen, running to evade the projectiles only to slay the boss with a single slash. With Shin reminded of why he respects Sakamoto so much, Shin realizes Sakamoto had bugged his gun when he was unconscious and is suddenly offered a job by Sakamoto. Sakamoto says he'll pay Shin 800 yen an hour. Cutting to the next day, where Shin has started on his first day, asking Sakamoto to not eat ramen, especially since they're low on stock. As Hana and Aoi compliment Shin's new apron, Shin makes use of his psychic abilities to help out an elderly lady, but is threatened by Sakamoto to keep their past a secret from the others. Fast at work, Shin restocks the shelves and mans the cash register, cutting to later that day, where Shin praises Sakamoto for slaying all those men. Hearing Shin mention Sakamoto slaying people, Aoi reminds Sakamoto he promised to leave his life of a hitman behind, prompting Sakamoto to reassure Aoi that he dealt non-lethal blows. Angry, Aoi reminds Sakamoto they have a family rule, and if Sakamoto ever breaks the rule, she'll divorce him, scaring Sakamoto. When Shin wonders what this family rule is, Sakamoto silences Shin in his mind, both heading to Niokita Chinatown to pick up some items. Seeing Sakamoto pick up some heavenly pork buns for the whole family, and at half the price, Shin admires Sakamoto for being so family-oriented, but Shin is still curious about Sakamoto's family rule. Refusing to explain anything, the duo continue walking, suddenly spotting a pink-haired girl burst through the window of a high-rise, coincidentally collapsing onto Sakamoto. Although Sakamoto is fine, Sakamoto gets sad seeing his pork buns have been squashed, but our duo suddenly sees several men call out to the pink-haired girl. Introducing herself as Lu Xiaodang, the mystery girl, Lu scoffs at the men's pathetic attempts to catch her, but Shin notices Sakamoto is more sad, thinking about how upset Hana and Aoi will be having no buns to bring home. As the men rush Lu, she begins knocking out the men with her martial arts, something Shin recognizes as Tai Chi, watching as 3 men suddenly surround Lu. Even still, Lu tosses and knocks out 2 of the men, unfortunately captured by the third. Seeing the men prepare to slash at Lu's legs, Sakamoto stops the man's knife with some tongs, breaking them only to put the man to sleep. Seeing an opening, Shin knocks out the man, restraining Lu with a sign, allowing Lu to disarm the final gun-wielding man. knocking him out. As the trio catch their breaths, they suddenly hear an even larger swarm of men chasing after them, forcing Sakamoto to pick Lu up, all three fleeing from the swarm. Elsewhere, we see a henchman reporting that they've failed to capture Lu, pissing Wang off, the CEO of Danshokai Incorporated. Wang reminds everyone he slayed Lu's entire village, and still they failed to capture her. But before Wang can dismiss his men, a knife decapitates his messenger's head. Known as Bacho and Sun He, Wang orders the psychotic brothers to hunt down Lu no matter what, stating that Lu has the key for them to rule over the black market. With the brothers given free rein to slaughter all that gets in their way, we cut back to our trio where Lu tells Shin and Sakamoto about her belonging to the Lu Mafia clan. Lu says she is currently in possession of her family's hidden vault key. But when Shin suggests Lu get rid of such a dangerous key, Lu refuses since her family died protecting the key, remembering the final moments of her clan burning down all whilst her parents beckon Lu to flee with the key. Lu apologizes for getting others involved, leaping away, but before Shin can follow after Lu, Sakamoto holds Shin back. Before Lu disappears, Sakamoto asks if Lu can make pork buns, agreeing to assist Lu, and in exchange Lu must make pork buns for them once they make it out alive. Before Shin can question Sakamoto's judgment, Bacho appears, landing a direct kick on a Sakamoto that sends him flying. Sun scolds Bacho for attacking so barbarically, alerting Shin as to who these monsters are. But Lu says they're twin hitmen that charge high hit rates for their perfect resume of assassinations. On top of things, the brothers have been seen sketching the heads of their victims, something that pleases Bacho since they're so well known. But Sun reminds Bacho they should be more elusive since they're hitmen. Seeing Shin dash in close, Sun easily catches Shin's fist, mocking Shin for acting so emotionally after Sakamoto was defeated. Leaping back, Shin feels bad for those who disrespect Sakamoto, but Bacho takes the chance to blink behind Lu, preparing a lethal slash. Appearing out of nowhere, Sakamoto smashes Bacho into the ground, shocking everyone as Sakamoto's punch tears a hole in the roof they're standing on, making Sun wonder who Sakamoto is. As Sakamoto ignores Sun's questions, Bacho says he'll pay Sakamoto back, all while Sun asks for Lu to hand over the key in exchange for a quick death. Hearing Lu choosing to give her life to protect the key, Sun reveals that her parents said something similar before he slaughtered them, infuriating Lu as she rushes forward. Grabbing and tossing Lu back, Lu is reminded not to get emotional. But Lu says the vault contains her ancestors' legacy, something Lu's father had given his life to protect. Having heard enough, Sun tosses a kunai at Lu, forcing Sakamoto to intercept the blade, asking the brothers to not dictate others' lives. With Lu seeing Sakamoto bleeding from catching the kunai, Lu asks why Sakamoto would go so far to protect her, flashing back to the Christmas season when a younger-looking Sakamoto has brought Aoi a gift. Aoi is angry seeing Sakamoto covered in blood, knowing he had to murder people to get her a gift. Seeing as Sakamoto refuses to change, Aoi chooses to jump from their location, forcing Sakamoto to chase after her, clinging onto her. Luckily, the snow beneath them softened their fall. But Aoi uses the moment to show Sakamoto just like how he cares for Aoi. There are people that care for the people Sakamoto kills, asking Sakamoto to promise to never slay another and instead save people to atone for his past. With Shin reading Sakamoto's mind, he finally realizes what the no-kill rule is, watching as the brothers rush them. As Sakamoto blocks all of Sun's attacks, Shin chooses to evade and dodge all of Bacho's slashes, intriguing the brothers as to who Sakamoto is. Choosing to unveil one of their hidden techniques, both Bacho and Sun fire off a flurry of attacks at Sakamoto, but Sakamoto nonchalantly slips them all, asking for a pain patch having stressed his neck. Before the brothers can unveil another hidden technique, Sakamoto puts Bacho to sleep with a cooking pot, following up by breaking Sun's weapon using a wok. Seeing Shin helping Sakamoto patch up his hand, Sun attempts to target Lu, but Shin had read his mind, binding and tossing Sun back with a rope. For the finishing blow, Sakamoto smashes a refrigerator on his son, tying the two men up as Lu wonders who our duo is. As Sakamoto munches on some crab, We cut over to Wong, who wonders where the brothers are. Yearning for the day he can open the vault before him. Suddenly receiving a delivery, Wong spots the brothers tied up, suddenly restrained by Lu, who says she needs to pay Wong back for all that he's done. A few minutes later, Lu is seen repeatedly punching Wong, exciting Shin as he wants to join in, but Sakamoto prepares to put Shin to sleep. Having had enough, Lu says she shouldn't slay people and instead should live a happy life, choosing to finally unlock the vault with her key. As the trio head inside, they're amazed by the antique relics littered all over the vault. Something Shin reads are valuable items every past leader of the Lu clan treasures. Seeing the item her father left behind, Lu reads that her father had left behind some valuable booze to one day share with Lu, making Lu treasure her family. Sitting down, Sakamoto unveils the squished pork buns, snacking on them as Lu remarks the Japanese buns are pretty tasty. The next morning, Shin sees reports of the aftermath of their brawl with Wand and the brothers, suddenly seeing Sakamoto enter the store exhausted. Seeing Lu enter with an apron, Shin wonders why Lu doesn't just sell her family's vault instead of working. But Sakamoto reminds Shin that he is now part of the family and must follow their family's no-kill rule. At the same time, we see several figures receive a bounty on Sakamoto and Shin, with Sakamoto's bounty valued at 1 billion yen. With several days passing, Lu continues to show up to work, but is scolded by Shin for being 2 hours late. Restocking the aisles, Shin calls out Lu for placing detergent in the drinks section of the fridge, but Lu says customers can figure it out themselves, stuffing everything into one place. Shin wonders if Lu has ever worked a job in her life, learning that Lu used to help her dad dig and bury strange bags, but this makes Shin ask for Lu to be fired. Hearing the two argue, Sakamoto asks for Shin to not say such mean things and that Lu should apologize when she's late, shocking the two. Heading outside, Sakamoto reminds Shin to sweep outside and for Lu to finish prepping the pork buns, but Shin is more worried realizing how talkative Sakamoto is. Sakamoto reminds Shin that he is human too, but out of nowhere a second Sakamoto appears, sitting down at the counter and picking up where the first one left off. The first Sakamoto accuses the second of being a doppelganger, thrusting a sword at the second, but the second dodges, holding up a blade to the first as the first pulls out a gun. With both Sakamotos standing down, the second Sakamoto greets Nagumo, prompting the first Sakamoto to unsheath his disguise. Shin gets terrified, unable to read Nagumo's mind, watching as Nagumo turns and laughs at both himself and Lu. Annoyed, Shin and Lu punish Nagumo, demanding to know how Sakamoto knows Nagumo, learning that Nagumo works in the supermarket across the street and is friends with Sakamoto. Hearing Nagumo mention he is 18, Shin wonders how Sakamoto met him, but Sakamoto reveals Nagumo is 27 and that there is no supermarket across the street. Seeing as Nagumo lied to them again, Shin and Lu beat and tie Nagumo up, prompting Nagumo to mention that Sakamoto has a 1 billion yen bounty on his head, but Lu and Shin refuse to believe another one of Nagumo's outrageous lies. Nagumo states the JA had recently decided on it, and the news will be released tomorrow, but just then a pizza delivery arrives, exciting everyone. As the delivery man places the pizza on the counter, Nagumo says there are rumors of Sakamoto's legendary return, but just then Shin reads the delivery man's mind, hearing the man mocking everyone. Deeming himself to be Pizza Nakajima, Nakajima is revealed to be a hitman, using the tied-up Nagumo as a hostage. Upon seeing Sakamoto and Lu nonchalantly eating pizza, Nakajima warns Sakamoto to take him seriously, but in an instant Nagumo appears behind Nakajima, placing him in a stranglehold. As Nagumo tightens his grip, Sakamoto orders Nagumo to release the unconscious man, making Nagumo ask if Sakamoto will truly survive without killing. Nagumo reminds Sakamoto that he himself may be after Sakamoto, defusing the situation seeing that Shin and Lu are ready to fight, but reminds Sakamoto that his kind specializes in taking down other hitmen. Before Nagumo leaves, Sakamoto asks who is benefiting from his death, but Nagumo has no idea, calling out how stupid it was for Sakamoto to draw attention to himself when he wiped out Wong and his company. Nagumo says there won't be any more newbie assassination attempts, taking Nakajima with him only to bid farewell to Sakamoto, disappearing before Shin can follow him. As Sakamoto turns to face the pizza box, we zoom out to see several people watching Sakamoto through the pizza box, all refusing to believe such a fat man could be worth 1 billion yen. Speaking up, one of the men from Don Denkai reminds the others to not underestimate Sakamoto. Having heard he used to belong to the Order, a mythical elite group, but people still believe Sakamoto is rusty after 5 years of retirement. Just then, they all turn their heads to the screen, hearing Sakamoto threaten them to try their best, only to destroy the camera. That evening, Shin wonders if Sakamoto will be okay now that others have his sights on him, but Sakamoto thinks they should lay low for a while. Just then, Hana and Aoi appear, both excited for tomorrow as Sakamoto suddenly realizes what they have planned for tomorrow. Having arrived at Sugar Park Amusement Park, the gang immediately rides a roller coaster, all having mixed feelings about such a ride. Hana takes the chance to show off the park's cute bunny mascot, Sugar Bunny, someone that reminds Lou of Sakamoto. Seeing Aoi so excited to spend time with everyone, Shin declares their operation today is to protect the Sakamotos and ensure everyone has a good time. Seeing Lou scanning the surrounding area for enemies, Shin says that he can read the minds of people in a 30-meter radius, stating those worked up are most likely hitmen. At that moment, Shin detects someone approaching, alerting Sakamoto. Revealed to be Kuriai Ninga disguised as a janitor, Kuriai makes his way towards Sakamoto all whilst Lou guides Aoi and Hana elsewhere. As Kuriai passes Sakamoto, he pulls out a needle ready to slay Sakamoto, but without batting an eye, Sakamoto plunges a pin into Kuriai's chest, only for Shin to carry Kuriai away. With Aoi and Hana not realizing what happened, Shin and Lou dispose of Kuriai's body, amazed that Sakamoto incapacitated Kuriai without hitting any vital organs. Having witnessed everything, Tatsu scolds Kuriai for being so obvious, annoyed at Shin's mind-reading powers, but wonders if he can suppress his killing intent to go undetected. With Tatsu passing by Shin, he manages to brush by without being detected, cutting to later that day where the gang is riding another roller coaster ride. With Shin and Lou positioned at the back to spot any attackers, Shin reports he doesn't hear anything suspicious, but Lou points out a strange pointy-haired looking man. Hearing the two talk about him, Tatsu lets his killing intent slip, alerting Shin to Tatsu's hitman status. As Tatsu fires off a bullet at Sakamoto, Sakamoto simply deflects it with his bulletproof glasses, but Shin takes the chance to remove his harness. Leaping out of his seat, Shin falls onto Tatsu's location, dragging him out as they both fall to a lower railing on the ride. Unable to read Tatsu's mind, Shin suddenly jumps, sensing the ride appearing behind him, but Tatsu uses the opening to toss 2 knives at Shin. Knowing he can't dodge both, Shin is forced to endure a scratch to the leg, suddenly collapsing having been poisoned. Tatsu remarks that his poison will take Shin's life in a few moments, using the chance to slander Sakamoto as he points out how Sakamoto fears death. Defending Sakamoto's name, Shin gets up, once again leaping over the ride approaching from behind, but this time he jumps onto his seat, dragging Tatsu for the ride. Tatsu is impressed, easily able to defend against Shin's pathetic punches, forcing Shin to rack his brain for a solution as Tatsu pulls out a knife. Scanning the surroundings, Shin hears something, evading Tatsu's advances only to drag him, falling onto a play. Having taken on the disguise of Sugar Bunny himself, Shin catches Tatsu off guard when he manages to move and evade his attacks, even going on the offense even after being blinded by Tatsu's poison. As the crowd cheers on the bunny, it's revealed that Sakamoto is off in the crowd instructing Shin how to move, perfectly countering and forcing Tatsu into a corner. Infuriated, Tatsu slashes at Shin's head, surprised to see Shin has his eyes closed, but Sakamoto spots an opening, ordering Shin to put Tatsu to sleep, wrapping up the performance. As Lou continues to ride the roller coaster, we zoom out to see Boiled and Abiguro now being dispatched to deal with Sakamoto. But Boiled orders Abiguro to not slack off and not commit unnecessary murders, something Abiguro finds attractive. Back with Shin, Lou helps apply the poison antidote to his eyes, all while Sakamoto asks who hired Tatsu. Seeing Tatsu playing dumb, Lou borrows Tatsu's poison knife, stabbing him only to begin pouring out the antidote, demanding Tatsu talk if he doesn't want to perish. Tatsu reveals that he was hired by Don Denkai, an underground company with a toxic work environment that requires hitmen to work solo. Shin calls Tatsu a hypocrite for selling out his employer, but Tatsu states he isn't loyal since he's part-time, adding that he is part of the JAA as well. With Lu curious as to what the JAA is, Shin shows Lu his license for the Japanese Association of Assassins. Apparently, the JAA is a company that helps manage the top hitmen, giving them hits in exchange for a fee, and only works with the top 400 hitmen, with both Shin and Sakamoto being members. Seeing as this is the perfect chance, Tatsu asks if Sakamoto used to be in the order, but upon seeing Sakamoto's serious glare, Tatsu is impressed that the rumors he heard weren't just lies. At that moment, Aoi and Hana arrive, recognizing the tied-up Tatsu as the villain they saw in the performance, convinced that Shin is simply practicing more performances with Tatsu brushing him off. With the gang all heading off to enjoy Hana's handmade meals, Shin stays back to confiscate Tatsu's deadly weapons, asking Tatsu to enjoy his life. Tatsu is surprised he has been spared, spotting Hana running back to give him a bandage, weirded out. Now that he's alone, Tatsu reveals he could have freed himself all this time, but instead chooses to enjoy the amusement park, cutting over to Sakamoto, who indulges in the lovely handmade meals with the others. Shin utters that his mind is currently foggy, having been afflicted by the antidote, prompting Lu to ask Sakamoto if they could leave for the day. With Aoi arriving, she demands to know what our trio are hiding, cutting over to Tatsu, who is being confronted by Boiled. In an instant, Abiguro restrains and sits on Tatsu, but seeing Abiguro acting so cocky, Boiled orders Abiguro to close her legs. Embarrassed, Abiguro lets Tatsu go, learning that Abiguro and Boiled have been sent to ensure Tatsu doesn't fail, especially since Tatsu will be removed if he fails. Abiguro voices how excited she is to be hunting down the legendary Sakamoto, but Tatsu notes how goofy the two are, remembering that the duo had eliminated over 100 people during the Balkan battles 2 years ago. Back with Sakamoto, he along with Lu and Shin rush to explain their excitement for the amusement park, reassuring Aoi and Hana that they're good to continue exploring the park. More alert than ever, the gang ensures Hana and Aoi's time in the park isn't spoiled, cutting to later that evening where Aoi takes the gang to a haunted house, a location that favors assassins. Guided by a deceased nurse, the nurse explains her backstory, tickling Aoi and Hana's curiosity, but Lu is clearly hating the atmosphere. With the gang left to explore the haunted house, Boiled and Abiguro are seen spying on them through the control room, all whilst the gang compliment the unique details done to the interior. Out of nowhere, Shin is attacked by a zombie, forcing Sakamoto to draw the zombie's attention, evading and barraging the zombie with strikes, impressing Shin as the zombie seems to be stunned. Continuing through the ride, Sakamoto shows Shin the zombie's license, noting how the zombie was a mere rookie hitman. But Boiled and Abiguro can't help but be amazed at Sakamoto's moves even after retiring. Hearing Abiguro begging to slay Sakamoto, Boiled orders Abiguro to leave Sakamoto to him. Abiguro reassures Boiled Sakamoto is all his, asking Boiled to not work out when he's stressed, reminding Boiled he used to be Sakamoto's friend. Flashing back, we enter the Hitman training center, only to see a 15-year-old Boiled meeting a 14-year-old Sakamoto for the first time. Boiled had heard Sakamoto had beaten up his friends, impressed to see Sakamoto so skilled, so they ultimately clicked as friends. Spending more time together, they're seen alone during Valentine's Day, only for several girls to confess their love to Sakamoto. With Nagumo also showing off his haul of Valentine's gifts, Boiled confirms that Sakamoto and himself were actually not alike, something that makes Abiguro love Boiled even more, seeing Boiled acting tough. As Sakamoto and the family head deeper into the haunted house, Sakamoto is forced to deal with several more zombie attackers. Amazing Shin as Hana is unfazed by the horror around her. Not wanting to be beaten, Lu chugs her clan's remedy to suppress her fear, but Shin calls her out for simply using alcohol to quench her nerves. Passing by a sealed-off door, the gang hears some banging sound, prompting Lu to excitedly open the door, only to realize a horde of zombies had been lying in wait. With Shin unable to protect Aoi and Hana, Sakamoto attempts to make his way through the swarm, suddenly intercepted by Boiled himself. With Boiled blowing Sakamoto into a different section of the house, Boiled evades a card thrown at him. Hearing Sakamoto demand Boiled let him pass. With Boiled disappointed to see Sakamoto doesn't remember him, Sakamoto gets pissed, declaring he'll show Boiled hell. At the same time, Shin manages to clear the zombies, entering a room only to be relieved seeing Aoi and Hana sleeping peacefully. Speaking up, Abiguro reassures Shin that the girls have only been put to sleep, declaring that she and her zombies will have to distract Shin until Boiled is done. Out of nowhere, Lu fires off a kick that sends Abiguro flying. Something Shin recognizes is the drunken fist style of fighting. With Abiguro excited for a decent fight, we cut back to Boiled to ask again if Sakamoto remembers him. Ignoring the question, Sakamoto asks where his family is, dashing in close to sneak attack, but Boiled detonates an explosion before Sakamoto can get close. Equipping his special gloves, Boiled sends several more explosives bouncing around the room, detonating them only to use the explosion to land a flush punch on Sakamoto. Back with Lu, she rushes in for strike on Abiguro, but Abiguro nonchalantly catches Lu's fist, complimenting Lu's technique only to shake Lu until she gets sick. Wanted to have some fun, Abiguro orders Shin to be tied up, uttering that she wants to draw out Lu's strength, giving Lu a challenge. Abiguro wants Lu to land a hit on her every 10 seconds, or else Shin will be sliced, but Lu suddenly begins crying, yelling that she doesn't want to hurt anyone. Back with Sakamoto, we see him completely defeated by Boiled, listening as Boiled reminds Sakamoto that it's been 5 years since he's retired. When Sakamoto tries another attack, Boiled simply detonates another explosive, declaring that his super ball bombs combined with his rocket dynamite punch will ensure Sakamoto is defeated. Sakamoto is reminded of how cringy Boiled was, remembering a younger Boiled showing off his new gear along with the composition for said explosions. Annoyed at Sakamoto's weak attitude, Boiled chases Sakamoto with his explosions and fist, crying that he looked up to the Chad Sakamoto was. Charging up a lethal blow, Sakamoto catches a glimpse of his family, suddenly sent flying deep into the building corridor. As Boiled turns to leave, he bids farewell to his teenage memories with his best friend, but out of nowhere Boiled senses immense blood lust from down the corridor. Marching towards Boiled, Sakamoto begins listing the chemicals Boiled uses for his bomb's composition, declaring that he's finally remembered Boiled and will now show Boiled how much he's grown.